Let's dive into the world of sales. What does sales mean, and what kind of operations and roles support sales in the organizations? Today, I have Vedant, who is sales operation analyst in business of sales. Vedant, thank you so much for coming today. I'm really glad to see you.
Hi, Evelina. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Vedant, thank you so much for coming today, talking about your career field. Let's start with your launching years, maybe college years, or whenever it was a time for you when you realized that sales or analytics, yeah, business analysis
Mhm.
is for you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So um, I got my undergraduate degree in business administration with a focus in computing and information systems. So I came into my career as a business and data analyst, and that has kind of been my career ever since. Now, in that time, I just naturally gravitated working more with the sales team, just based on the kind of projects that I was working on and some of the sister teams. And so they kind of pulled me more into that world of sales support and sales operations. And honestly, just working with salespeople is just so much fun. They know how to have a good time. And so that is really what kind of brought me into sales and client success operations. And so after
Mhm.
doing that for a couple years, uh, um, and having more of a customer facing role is what brought me to my current role as a sales operations analyst.
hmm So you discovered, yeah, that you really enjoy working in sales teams during college, during internships, or was it later?
It was later, yeah. So it was really when my career kind of took off, and I spent 4 years at a mid-sized tech company, and I had several different roles there, and I left the company as kind of a sales support kind of specialist. So already, in the middle of my career is really when I knew that that was what I wanted to do.
hmm okay, let's talk about your starting years in business. Yeah, so the business analysis, data
Mhm.
analysis, yeah, and the sales.
Mhm.
What kind of typical backgrounds people usually have if they want to like work in this field? You said it's College of Business. Yeah, you had business degree and
Mhm.
information science. Yeah, but
Yeah.
what other backgrounds are typical for this field?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that if you're starting out as any kind of a business or data analysis, you're going to need a very strong Excel background. And so, a lot of times, a lot of like the business courses in your undergrad and even at the graduate level too, will really kind of dive into Excel because a lot of the other tools and things that we use in sales operations are all kind of built on top of feed into and out of Excel. So, that it was a lot of Excel work, especially because there's a lot of people, even today, like even people that I've worked with, who will not even touch Excel. And these are business professionals who have been, in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years now. So, really having that Excel background and comfort and familiarity will really go a long way. And so, any kind of science related fields, business, even getting into some like liberal arts majors as well to, have that really strong foundation of like research and getting into Excel and data analysis.
Got it. Yeah, and you mentioned the very big importance of knowing Excel, but what other
Mhm.
skills do you think matter most for someone just starting out?
Sure, yeah. So I would say that, being a business analyst, which is fundamentally what a sales operations analyst is, it's just that I am that resource for the sales organization instead of any other organization that exists there. So um, of course, one part of it is on the technical side, right? So understanding the tools and technology, but another part of it is stakeholder communication. In our role as an operations person, as a business analyst, you're going to be presenting a lot of your data and insights up to senior leadership and even up to executive leadership as well, depending on where your role is. And so really understanding your audience, being able to communicate confidently, and even when you don't know something, even able to to be confident in that. And I would say probably the other skill is really storytelling with data. This is a skill that I have seen that people are starting to talk about more and more and more. And it's really about, it's not just enough about putting insights in front of people. It's about like, why should you care about these insights and how is it going to help you with things like forecasting or increasing revenue or increasing efficiency, things like that.
Hmm. And what kind of problems do you enjoy solving the most at your job or field?
Oh yeah, and trust me, there's no shortage of problems there. But I would say that the problems that I enjoy solving the most is when someone comes to me with an idea, like, "Hey, I would totally love if something like this existed," and really getting to put the nuts and bolts onto an idea and like kind of bringing it out of someone's head into writing and like into production. Um, that and then also like solving gaps, right? Like let's say there's a process, a business process or a sales process that has a big gap and it's causing people, a lot of headaches. So getting in there, getting in the weeds of that, trying to solve for that, and then putting guardrails on it, right? Because, okay, so we've seen this gap and we've solved it, but how do we make sure that
Mhm.
it doesn't happen again or that people don't fall into the same gap? That's
Yeah.
really where I find a lot of enjoyment in my work.
Hmm. Yeah. So sounds like a very important career. How do you think how much in demand is it right now? How easy to find a job in this field, and where people usually look for a job? Is it LinkedIn or any other specialized websites?
Mhm. Yeah, so the one thing about sales operations that you will find, and of course I'm speaking in generalizations here, but
Hmm.
salespeople for the most part are not very technically minded. So, if you try to get them to get into do any kind of like intermediate or even advanced Excel work or CRM work, that's not really their forte, right? It like their focus is all on the selling part of it.
Hmm.
And so sorry, can you repeat the question for
Yeah.
me?
How much in demand this
How much in demand? Yes,
your
yes.
specific analyst job is? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And so because salespeople, just don't want to do that stuff, I think that there will always be a demand for these kind of operations roles, specifically in the sales organization. And so I would say, yeah, LinkedIn, Indeed, there's a couple more specialized websites, around tech, like tech jobs, AI jobs, Dice is another big website as well. So I'd say, yeah, start there. And of
Mhm.
course, always kind of look at the company website too, because oftentimes there's jobs there that you won't find on these third-party websites.
Yeah. What kind of vocabulary do you use? Do you just put sales operation analyst, sales operations specialist?
Yeah,
What
those
is
are the two main ones. Yeah, and then like just any kind of
Mhm.
like also sales enablement specialist and
Mhm.
analyst as well. A lot of companies will kind of use operations and enablement interchangeably, even though there are kind
Mhm.
of, subtle differences between the two.
Mhm.
Sales enablement, sales operations, just sales
Mhm.
in general. Yeah, I think that's a good starting point for
And
sure.
analyst at the end, yeah.
An analyst at the end. Yeah. So either analyst
Mhm.
or specialist. I'd say start with
What
those.
about manager or it's sales operations manager? Does it work or?
Oh yeah, that works as well. Yeah, if
Mhm.
you have maybe some more experience leading teams, even if it's not
Mhm.
specifically within sales, yeah, for sure you can go for those.
Mhm. And you also mentioned you got your MBA, right?
Yes.
How useful it was for you to get an MBA, and was it beneficial for your career path, or maybe it's going to be beneficial down in the future, down the
Mhm.
road?
Sure, yeah. So I recently got my MBA. I specialize in both business analytics and marketing. And so, absolutely, I think for any analyst, you always have to be learning, whether that's getting you know, a master's degree, certifications, boot camps,
Mhm.
anything like that. Any analyst worth their salt is always learning because there's always new like tools to learn. There's always new technologies that is coming out. AI is a big part of
Mhm.
most roles, but especially in operations. I use AI all the time. Help me plan out this dashboard, or I am trying to build this report. Help me kind of do XYZ, things like that. I am constantly using it. So any kind of AI certification, AI prompt engineering is a huge thing. um, yeah, so I would say that that kind of education, continuing education is very important for these kind of roles, and not just for sales operations, any kind of business analyst or data analyst role.
Mhm. And for your specific story, what was the biggest benefit of MBA?
Oh, yeah, good question. I'd probably say the biggest benefit was my courses, and specifically this like intensive elective that I did around process improvement. So
Mhm.
sales operations and operations is in general is all about improving process. So, if you're familiar with things like Six Sigma or Lean, that is totally what operations is all about, right?
Mhm.
Kind of understanding what the current process is, identifying where the gaps are, improving on them, and then controlling that new process. And so I would say that that is probably the thing that has the most one-to-one match to what I'm doing right now. But I would say that, overall, a lot of the MBA work is like team based, right? In like
Mhm.
small teams, that it is supposed to mimic how you kind of work in a professional capacity. And so I'd say that that is probably the biggest takeaway, is just, having to adapt and work with so many different people who have so many different work styles and schedules, and still putting out, quality outputs that, we can be proud of. So I'd say those like two or three things is the most
Mhm.
valuable.
Okay. And how can I tell if this occupation is a good fit for me, for example?
Um, Yeah, I would probably say open up Excel, and if it doesn't send goosebumps down your spine and it doesn't make you want to throw up, I think you're in the right spot. That I don't think there's a better test than that. Yeah, because you'll spend a lot of time in Excel for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's you know, focus on your uh, present right now. What is the
Mhm.
typical day for you in this field looks like?
Sure, absolutely. And so, my circumstances are a little bit different because I came in when the team was starting to be rebuilt from the ground up. So a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is, maybe a bit above my pay grade, but I'm still doing it because I'm the only resource. But, you know, my day kind of starts out, I kind of open my to-do list, my team's to-do list, see what's on the docket for the day,
Mhm.
get everything together. And then from there, my day is kind of split out. I'd say probably 50-50. So 50% I'm in meetings with like my team, right? So the sales operations and enablement team, as well as my marketing stakeholders as well, because we work very closely together. And then the other 50% of my day is working on my daily things. So like putting together reports and dashboards, other kind of asks, requests, and projects that have come through from people like my stakeholders or people that I support, like salespeople. So it's a mix of those two things, like a combination of that more technical work, and then some more like long term like strategizing with like leadership.
And typically in business, you mentioned business analytic and business analyst and data analyst positions. What kind of work mode is popular? Is it hybrid, remote, or on site? Like in your experience, is it very typical for data analysts to work remote, for example?
Yeah, so I would say that there's it doesn't lean like one way or another. I think like there is such
Mhm.
a wide diversity of roles and responsibilities out there that are all called like business analyst or data analyst. And
Mhm.
it also depends on like the company culture as well. But I think, analysts for the most part, I mean, I think that you can be confident that you can find remote work if that's what you're looking for, hybrid
Mhm.
or in person for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think some people really love remote mode of
Yeah.
work and they specifically want to change their career. So it's
Mhm.
very, it's easy to find the remote work,
Yeah.
for example. Okay. So you mentioned your typical day. I want to ask you, what are and that's the question I ask all my guests. What are the top three things that you enjoy about your
Mhm.
field and your career, and top three things you don't really enjoy?
Okay. About my career or like
Yeah.
just my current role or
Um, about the profession.
about the profession? Okay.
Hmm.
Well, so probably the number one thing that I enjoy the most about my career is the people that I work with. I said it before, but salespeople are just so much fun to be around. They know how to work hard and they equally know how to play hard. It is always a fun time at work, and that is honestly a big part of what gets me out of bed in the morning. Is what gets me motivated. Um, you know, and point number two, this is ironic, but point number two is that as analysts, you have the ability to just kind of, put on like do not disturb, I'm reporting, I'm dashboarding, and people will just give you your space. So I found that to be very nice. You just kind of just lock in the zone, like, hey, I need 2, 3 hours of just, I don't want anyone to disturb me because I'm reporting or I'm working in Excel, for example, or something, or I'm putting together a dashboard, something like that. So that's also really nice to have as well. And then probably the third thing is, there's a lot of opportunities to build something new in operations. There's always a broken process or an inefficient process. Companies are bogged down with these everywhere, and especially in sales organizations, in my experience. So,
Mhm.
there's always an opportunity to put your name on something like, hey, I saw that this was, maybe not running as efficiently as it could have. And so I took the opportunity to fix it and put my name on it, and now it works fine. So there's always these like small little areas that if you have the will and the knowledge to kind of go after it, see it, um, like you become very valuable very quickly
Hmm.
internally.
Good.
Now, in terms of things that I don't like, um, you know, that gets a little harder, I think.
Mhm.
Maybe one thing that people might say is that, oh, well, the work might get repetitive, but that's more so if you're looking at it, from the tools and the actions. I think a lot of the projects and stuff will all kind of feed into each other, and as you kind of work on one project, or as one project ends, that's going to open doors to maybe two or three other things that kind of came about it. So, yeah, I really can't point to one specific thing that I dislike. I've been in my career now for about 6 years, and I don't really see myself doing anything else. So,
Wow. You have a hard time finding something you don't enjoy.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah, really. Yeah.
maybe that's a sign you're in the right place.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned that the first advantage that you work with teams, yeah, that and they're pretty fun people to work around. Can you tell me how much of this job involves, or this profession involves, working independently versus working with people? And yeah, let's talk about like culture and people dynamics, how much you enjoy it.
Sure, yeah. So, you know, excuse me, most operations or most analyst roles will be individual contributor roles, right? And so, it depends on how big your team is and how integrated your team is with, kind of the rest of the sales and like marketing organization, for example. But in this role, there is a good mix of time when you're just kind of working by yourself on your own projects and stuff that has come from your stakeholders, as well as partnering cross-functionally across a number of different teams. So in my past, I have partnered with like um, beyond just marketing, teams like a content delivery team or professional services or cost optimization. There's a lot of opportunity to partner with a lot of these different teams, especially because, the commercial like revenue engine, right? Like the sales team, the revenue engine is so central to any company. So we are going to be connected like both laterally as well as vertically. So, we have the opportunity to present all the way up to, even C-suite level executives, partnering with all these various teams, finance, legal, even. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to collaborate cross-functionally.
So
Yeah.
it's a pretty social career, even though, a lot of time you spend analyzing something, it's still pretty social, right?
Yeah, and especially as you kind of rise through the ranks, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
now, today you might be an analyst, but down the road, 5, 10 years later on, when you kind of go up into that director, senior director role, that is definitely when you're socializing a lot because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes that director will kind of be the right hand person for the VP of sales and business development, for example, right? So in that role, you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
representing that person across the entire company. So absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
as you go higher up, more and more of your role will be spent, in that kind of
Yeah.
socializing.
Okay. Let's look now. We briefly discussed your current yet a little bit of your current role and just general profession right now.
Mm-hmm.
So this video is going to be watched by people who are thinking about the career change to business
Mm-hmm.
analysis, right? Business analytics or analysis,
Yeah. Yeah,
or
both is fine. Yeah.
data analytics, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not from business. I'm from
No,
education.
no, all good. All good.
My question is about how they can break into this field, for example. Maybe it's a career
Mm-hmm.
change, or it's going to be a high schooler or a college student who is right
Mm-hmm.
now in College of Business or
Sure.
thinking about College of Business,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about this career. What kind of skills matter the most if you just like want to break into this field? And it
Mm-hmm.
may be pretty competitive, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, let me kind of start at the high school level and then kind of work up there. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a junior or senior in high school, you're kind of thinking about, um, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to college or not? If I want to go to college, what am I going to study? Things like that. I would first say, if you have the opportunity to take an intro to accounting class, because that is going to familiarize you with a lot of business concepts and it's also going to get you into Excel. And that is really important. So, and and this is for everybody, if you're looking to get into this field and this profession, start with Excel and then work your way kind of up like up the totem pole, if you will, of the like various tools. And so, like moving on to your college age viewers, I would say that for them, also, if you have the opportunity to take an intro to business class, an intro to Excel class, something like that, just to get your feet wet, and you can take these courses online too, if that's not in your degree or you don't have the option to take that as an elective, there's a bunch of these courses online as well that I would recommend to them. um, so after you've kind of familiarized yourself with Excel is then when you can really dive into the CRM. So CRM is short for customer relationship management, and this software, I'm sure people have heard of Salesforce, um, but there's a whole bunch of CRMs out there. So I would pick one. And as your first one, maybe you kind of start with like, some of the bigger ones, right? So your Salesforce, your HubSpot, your Churn Zero, things like that. And really just kind of dive into all of their knowledge base and their articles. All of these companies, they have an entire library's worth of content on here's our product, here's how to use it. They offer certifications, they have just full on like courses that you can take. Also, LinkedIn Learning is an amazing tool and it's an amazing resource to have.
Mhm.
So I would say, those places would be is where I would start. And then really just kind of familiarizing yourself with what sales is, how sales works, because the more you understand what a salesperson does and like where the gaps are in terms of their tools and in terms of the processes they use, the better equipped you'll be to support them from the back end, which is what sales operations is all about. So
Mhm.
that is kind of like the starting place that I would kind of recommend for people
Yeah,
who are
that's a
watching.
great, yeah, thank you for this specific advice. And for example, let's imagine this person learned all of that. What is the best way to present it to the employers? Is it through the portfolio or through like how do they present it to the employer?
Sure, yeah. So most of the time it's through the resume and then the interviews. So
Mhm.
interviews for analyst roles is, very robust, right? Because people are
Mhm.
going to ask you what are called star questions, right? These are the behavioral questions, and these tend to trip people up because oftentimes they just don't know how to prepare for them. But these questions are going to be all about like, okay, well, tell me a time when you presented a project to a stakeholder and it didn't go well. How did you respond? How did you react? Right? Like, that's an example. Or tell me about a time when you led a team. Like, was it successful or not? Or like, tell me about how you supported the team to become successful. Or like, those kinds of questions is really how the interviewers are going to be able to tell that what you're talking about. So,
Mhm.
really kind of, and this is my advice to even people in my own life, just print out a list of 15, 20, 30 star questions and just write down your answers to them, right? So, the more that you practice your base answers, right, the less you have to remember. And so the more reactive you can be to your interviewer, right, to give a more specific and a more tailored answer. So, that's what I would recommend for folks.
Mhm. And I know you have a formal degree, bachelor's degree in College of Business, and then MBA from another university. So you have formal degrees for that. What about
Yeah.
people who want to do a career change? So
Hmm.
you mentioned a little bit like a liberal arts, yeah, in some of the backgrounds.
Hmm. A
But
liberal arts degree.
yeah, but
Yeah.
what if somebody doesn't have like a business formal
Hmm.
background from the university?
Sure. Yeah. So, the great part about like being an analyst is that your degree doesn't really matter all that much. Anybody can learn Excel. Anybody can learn how to use a CRM. It's not locked behind a degree or any kind of specialized knowledge for sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think people just need to kind of overcome that initial hurdle of these tools look so unfamiliar, or
Mhm.
maybe they had a bad experience back in high school or college or something. But honestly, I'd say that once you kind of get over that hump, then it is smooth sailing from then on out, because then it really opens your eyes to like, oh wow, I didn't know that I can do this, or I didn't know that I can do that. Even after almost 7 years of using Excel in a professional or academic capacity, I'm still learning new stuff today.
Mhm.
So it is a very robust tool. I can understand that, but it's there to help you. It's not your enemy. So
Yeah.
that is probably the single piece of advice that I would give to people is just,
Mhm.
I know it looks scary, but
Mhm.
it's really not. So
Got it. Okay. Now we have like 5 minutes left. I want
sure.
to talk a little bit about the future. So,
Mhm.
what kind of roles are there to move into later? What does the career progression looks like in this field?
Sure, yeah, great question. So the way that I see it, there's really kind of two paths for a sales analyst or a business analyst, if you will. So the first path, sorry, is to go into people managing. So that means moving up the ranks as a director, senior director, and then finally whatever form that looks like afterwards. So that is certainly one path. If you don't want to manage people, the other path is to just continue on being an IC, being an individual contributor, and kind of working your way up to, you know, a senior analyst, or even getting into some like project management. So I would say that those are kind of the two, three career paths that you have.
Mm-hmm. What about you? Do you want to, what kind of path do you want to see for yourself?
Yeah, so it's a good question.
Mhm.
It is still something that I am thinking through right now. You know, I never really saw myself as a people manager. And even after getting my MBA, you know, it didn't really kind of inspire me to kind of take that on. I really enjoy working with the data,
Mhm.
and I enjoy presenting the data out to people who need it, you know? So that is really, I think, where my forte is. And as long as I can continue to be an individual contributor, that is really, I think, what I want to be doing. So
Mhm.
we'll see. You know, I mean, I'm now getting into kind of the middle of my career. So, you know, we'll kind of
Mhm.
see, or not middle. I guess I'm still
Yeah.
early on, but
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the adjacent fields to business analytics, for example, that they can
Yeah.
transition to? Like, let's imagine they
Hmm.
got tired of business analytics
Hmm.
or the, sales analytics, yeah, and they just want
Hmm.
to change a field. What is something
Sure.
adjacent?
Yeah, so you know that it really depends on what you enjoy doing more, right?
Hmm.
So for example, if you're a sales analyst, right? So you know you can make the move into sales, or you can then make the move just fully as a technical resource, even getting into some like programming as well. So you know, and that is really, I think, what is unique about being an analyst is that you know you're kind of right in the middle. A lot of the skills that you have to learn just by virtue of being an analyst are already skills that will prepare you to be successful in a number of other roles. So like you know getting into sales, like customer success, professional services, business
Hmm.
development. There's a number of different fields. So
Got it. Oh, that's
yeah.
good news. Yeah, that it's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
flexible. We have 3 minutes left. I have two questions.
sure.
First question, what kind of resources would you recommend for people to get familiar with? And you mentioned a little bit, yeah, like intro into accounting, LinkedIn Learning, but
Hmm.
maybe there are YouTube channels or subreddits or just any resources that will help people to get
Hmm.
familiarized with business analytics.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, definitely LinkedIn is a great place to start.
Hmm.
And like, you know, that will definitely open up links to like, you know, different professional organizations, articles, like, you know, blog posts that people have wrote, things like that, is really, I think, the best place to start. Also, yeah, I think that's the best place to start. Yeah, because there's
Hmm.
just a lot of really good resources there that are just going to open up a lot of doors based on specifically what you're looking for. So yeah,
Okay. My last question is, what keeps you in this field?
yeah, I would definitely say the people. You know,
Mhm.
if if the people were not as great as they have been in my career, you know, I might have done something different for sure. So I would definitely say the people is what gets me motivated. It's what keeps me engaged in my role, and it honestly makes just doing my job so much more fun. So yeah, I would say the people for sure.
Okay. Anything else or just the people?
No, no, honestly, just the people and
Hmm.
yeah, just getting the opportunity, you know, to work with data. I just really kind of enjoy just being in the numbers and you know making yeah, just pulling out, you know, as much nuggets of gold as I can to put in front of the
Hmm.
people who really want to see it. So yeah, I'd say like, you know, both the people and the tools and the process that I get to work with. So
Okay. So just to wrap it up, today we talked about business analytics,
mhm,
sales operations analytics.
mhm.
Any other keywords to mention?
Um, yeah, business analysis, sales
Mhm.
operations analysis, sales enablement are
Mhm.
probably the three big, um, yeah, the three big
Yeah.
ones.
Awesome. Thank you, Vedant, for coming today for the interview, just sharing a little bit about your journey. I hope it's going to be
Sure.
very useful for people who are thinking about career in business and career in business analytics. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Vedant.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.